Alright, what is up, my entertainment junkies? And I live in the US. I know some of our laws are dumb, and there's a reason why some of these laws are dumb. While it comes from women are not allowed to skydive on Sundays in Mississippi, or in Kentucky you can't walk around with the ice cream cone in your back pocket, there are legitimate reasons why these laws exist. I'm not sure about the skydiving one, but I do know that in Kentucky you can't walk around with ice cream cone in your back pocket because back in the day, and I'm pretty sure the law's still in the books, if a horse follows you home, it was legally your horse, no matter whose horse it was beforehand. So people would walk around with an ice cream cone in their back pocket to lure horses home and have them follow them home. So they made that law to stop. The problem is the U.S. is not good at striking down laws out of their books. I think the only times that laws are actually stricken out of the books is if the Supreme Court says no, that's not constitutional. But let's look at other insane laws in the U.S.
You're woken by a bang at the door. Open up! Come out with your hands up! You can't believe this is happening. Could you really be in trouble with federal officials over lunch meat? You might be surprised. There are a lot of laws on the books in the United States, and some are genuinely bizarre. Here are some of the craziest state and federal U.S. laws that still exist. One thing that all states have in common is laws against drunk driving. It's illegal in all 50 states to operate a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level above a certain level. Some states expand.
Most of the time, the lowest it is 0.03. I think here in Mississippi it's like 0.08. But not, just forget that. Don't get into a car if you have any alcohol in your system. Just don't risk it. Don't risk other people. Keep yourself safe. Keep everybody safe.
That to other vehicles like bikes, scooters, and even tractors. But Wyoming adds a unique vehicle to that. Skis. Skiing under the influence could get you charged with a misdemeanor and facing up to 20 days in jail. It makes
Why?
sense a drunk skier could cause a dangerous crash that could hurt them.
But if you're drunk on a bicycle or a skateboard or just walking around, you could cause a danger anyways. Of course, we also have public drunkenness laws in the U.S., so yeah, stupid. You're drunk. You decide that you can't drive home. Your choices would normally be, hey, walk home or drive. Oh wait, you can't walk home because if you walk around public drunk, you are now under arrest for public drunkenness. So you have to call an Uber and spend more money to get home whenever you could just walk home.
Or others, but how often does this happen?
Alcohol laws in the U.S.
Some
suck.
laws are common sense, maybe a little too common sense. Have you ever told a friend, I know this route so well I could find it blindfolded? Well, you're apparently not the only one, because in Alabama, someone might have taken that challenge a little too literally. The southern state has a law on the books prohibiting driving while your vision is obscured with a blindfold. As it's unlikely to have happened too often, we're guessing that the law might have been named after the person who inspired it. So when in Alabama, don't be a Dave. Keep your eyes on the road. Another area where a lot of strange laws come
Noah, get the boat. Goddamn, people are idiots.
into play, our furry friends. Maybe you have a grandma who loved to knit, and she would use anything she could get her hands on to create a sweater. Well, if she lives in Delaware, there's one thing you don't have to worry about her using. It is illegal in the tiny northwestern state to sell dog or cat hair. A Class B misdemeanor to sell any part of a domestic dog or cat. This is no doubt a disappointment to the owner of Persian cat.
I believe, if I had to guess, this wouldn't be for the fur. It was probably somebody to stop people from chopping up animal body parts and selling them for meat or taxidermy or whatever. Like how people like rabbit's foot, think rabbit's feet are lucky. And furs just legally is a part of an animal. And it was just unintended side effect. Collateral damage, something like that.
cats everywhere as they coat the house in a thin layer of hair every shedding season. But there's nothing stopping her from knitting her own pet sheddings. But this next one might be a little harder to enforce. In the old days in Indiana, it was apparently pretty popular to have high-intensity horse races. These would often take place in public streets, which could be a danger to pedestrians. So the state passed a common-sense law banning people from riding horses above 10 miles an hour anywhere in the state. There's just one problem. Did anyone tell the horses? They probably don't know how to read speed limits, and an out-of-control horse could mean a ticket. But with the arrival of cars...
Other things, how did they know how fast 10 miles an hour was? And how did the people riding the horses know how fast 10 miles an hour was? They didn't have speedometers back then.
That's probably less of a worry. How fast do they go again? But at least this law protects one animal, maybe. Bigfoot, the mysterious North American megafauna. Or maybe just a guy named Bob in a gorilla suit. Many people believe the missing link exists, and they go into the woods regularly searching for it. But if you're Bigfoot hunting in Washington State, better make sure that you're only armed with a camera. Since 1969, the famous cryptid has been legally protected, with shooting a Bigfoot being a felony punishable by 5 years in prison. And he's now legally...
I'm sorry, what? Okay, I'm gonna put it this way. Why this is stupid. Besides the obvious fact of you can't kill what does not exist or what's not proven to be exist. Why is there a law in the book protecting something that's not even proven to be exist anyways? But why this is so stupid? Bald eagles. You hunt one of them down, that's a felony. I think it's punishable up to 5 years in prison, federal prison. There's a caveat to that. Self-defense still protects you. If you are being attacked by a bald eagle for whatever reason, especially if you didn't aggravate it, you can legally kill it to defend yourself. I mean, you're going to have to prove that you were defending yourself, but you can legally kill it. That's true for every animal. Freaking gray foxes, which I'm pretty sure is not illegal anymore since they're off the endangered list. Whatever animal you can think, horned owls. What's a more aggressive animal that's on the endangered list? If for some reason, like, China will hate this one, but if for some reason a panda gets out of the zoo and starts attacking you, you can legally kill it. Even though the zoos don't own pandas, they pay freaking China like millions of dollars to house them. So yeah, this is stupid.
Classified as an endangered species. If you see him, let him know. It's not the only state with some strange hunting regulations. In Virginia, there's a rich hunting tradition. Sportsmen and those looking to put some game on the menu do go out daily and shoot birds and mammals in the woods, except on Sunday. This isn't uncommon, as many states have regulations preserving Sunday as a day of rest for religious reasons, but there's one exception to this no-hunting bill in Virginia. The law bans the shooting of any wild bird or wild animal, including nuisance species, on Sundays, with the exception of raccoons. Virginia really went, we hate this one species particularly. Poor trash pandas. We bet this next law never even crossed your mind. There's nothing like a frog jumping competition, right?
Okay, so laws on the books that are proven to be laws for religious reasons are unconstitutional. We have the freedom of religion, which means we are free to practice whatever religious practices we want, and we are free to not practice any religious practices if we want. If the only reason that we aren't allowed to hunt on Sundays is due to Christian religion, that is an unconstitutional law, because why should I practice a Christian religion? I mean, a Christian practice when I don't practice Christianity. And if you want to know how rights and laws are supposed to work in America on what you can do, can't do, stuff like that, think about it this way. Your rights end where another's right another person's rights begin. So while the Bible says gays shall be if a man shall sleep with another man, he shall be stoned. It's your right to think badly about them and ultimately ostracize them because it's not their right. They don't have a right to associate with you. But you don't have a right to freaking throw stones at him because he has a right to life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. So, just think about it that way.
Okay, not many people know about this sport, which involves seeing how far a frog can jump after startling it. But this
That
is
sounds
occasionally
fun.
dangerous for the frog, and California wants to make sure those heroic athletes get treated well. If a frog is killed or otherwise dies in competition, it is forbidden to eat it or use the body for any other purpose. Alas, no drowning the sorrows of losing a prize-jumping frog with an appetizer of frog legs. Few areas have
Fuck
more
you.
strange laws than food. In Connecticut, they take pickles seriously. When legislators were discussing how to check for good quality pickles, because really biting into a mushy pickle is pretty disgusting.
I
they
have
passed a
never
law
done
stating
that.
Any pickle sold in the state must be able to bounce when dropped on the floor. This was actually tested in 1948 when 2 pickle vendors were reported for selling pickles that were unfit for human consumption. Sure enough, their wares didn't bounce and they were arrested. But that raises the question of how safe it is to drop pickles on the floor. Did you know you could get arrested over pizza?
Okay, if I had to guess, and at least I'm hoping, the pickles that they did drop on the floor, they did not try to resell, even if they did bounce. That's just what I'm hoping. Of course, it was way back when we didn't have as many, we didn't know as much about hygiene and cleanliness, so they could have just picked it up and ate it.
We've probably all had it happen to us. We hear a knock at the door and there's a pizza delivery man holding a piping hot pie. But you didn't order a pizza. Maybe it was a prank, maybe it was a misprint, but now you're having an awkward argument and you probably want pizza. Well, in Louisiana, sending someone a pizza they didn't order is actually considered harassment. This applies.
Big question, because I've had this done to me a few times. Because I was around people who somewhat cared and actually wanted to thank me for reasons. They ordered me a pizza and didn't tell me, but they paid for it before it got there, so it was a free pizza. I didn't have to pay for it, they just gave it to me. So, if this law, if pizzas that are already paid for is part of this law, that's bullshit. Granted, if they just order a pizza and say that you're going to pay at the door, that's a different story because, yeah, that can be harassment.
To intentionally trying to stick someone with a pie, but an accidental address mishap could potentially result in a $500 fine as well.
Okay, that's another thing about America. Guilty until proven innocent. If it's an accident, they can't really legitimately charge. They can't legally keep the fine if it was just, oh, I accidentally put a 3 instead of a 5.
It's not often that a state bans banning something. In 2013, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg was well known for his health regulations. He banned giant-sized sodas and required restaurants to post their calorie counts. Well, in Mississippi, they did.
Mississippi. Okay, so. Okay, Bloomberg, I'm going to say this. Why would you ban the big sodas? I mean, if the people are selling the big sodas and not selling the large sodas and not selling smaller versions, make a law saying they have to sell smaller versions. But no, I agree with the posting the calorie count. There are way too many people who are count calories, and way too many people who should be counting calories. That posting their calorie counts is actually a very good idea.
Didn't like that. So soon afterward, they passed a law nicknamed the Anti-Bloomberg Bill that explicitly banned towns in the state from requiring nutritional information on menus. The law is still in effect.
Oh, that was Tate Reeves, wasn't it? Hold on, I gotta see. I gotta look this up. Uh, who passed the anti-Bloom? I don't know how to spell Bloomberg. Yeah. Okay. Who passed it? Phil Bryant. Wait, where is St. Reeves, Mississippi or Memphis? I mean, Mississippi or Tennessee? Yeah, Governor. Okay, make sure I'm not stupid. I'm surprised it wasn't Tate Reeves. God, I love this godforsaken state. That was in 2021 too, so.
Back 8 years later, and Mississippi takes a stand to prevent diners from knowing too much about what goes into a giant plate of barbecue. You wouldn't think a law would be needed to keep this game from getting rowdy. Ah, bingo. A nice, relaxing game of chance.
Hey, those old people, if you hadn't been around old people, they don't care. They've been around long enough. They don't give a shit about not hurting people's feelings or looking like an idiot. So I can assume that there's some freaking riots legitimate riots and mosh pits at a fucking bingo parlor.
It's where the elderly come to win prizes and feel the thrill of victory. It's all fun and games, at least until Myrtle and Ethel call bingo a half-second apart and the canes go flying.
Yeah.
That's why in North Carolina it's illegal to sell or consume any alcoholic beverage in a place where bingo is being played. And it doesn't fall under a general rule banning alcohol around games of chance either. They passed a law specifically about bingo. What did Myrtle do? But they're...
Yeah, that is a thing, and I say that casinos shouldn't be able to serve alcohol on the floor for this reason, but what casinos will do is they will get you drunk, especially if they see you winning. They will give you free drinks to get you drunk and to lower your reasoning so that you lose all the money that you won and possibly more than what you won, more than what you win. Casinos are just predatory, man. Stay away from them. No, wait. Stay away from the gambling floor. The show, if you're there for shows or the food or the hotels, yeah, go ahead, but stay away from the gambling floor.
Not as strict as their neighbor to the south. South Carolina has a pretty involved juvenile justice code. Don't want those kids to get out of control, after all. These laws usually don't carry hefty criminal charges, instead charging kids with status offenses, where they usually get released home to their parents and have to face a judge. Most are common sense, covering things like truancy and curfews, but the law goes out of its way to ban one popular activity.
Oh, yeah. I remember this.
Too close to gambling for their tastes, or maybe they just really don't like the song Pinball Wizard. But if you're a kid in South Carolina, stay away from those flippers. But it's not the most unusual recreation
it's
ban
weird.
in the U.S. state. In the great state of Louisiana, there are some tough and hardy men. So tough, in fact, that they feel like testing themselves in the sport of bear wrestling.
I think I actually knew about
Exactly
this.
what it sounds like. One or more people fighting a bear in a wrestling match. Now, we're willing to bet that not too many people do this activity twice, but enough people try to take their lives in their hands that that state had to make a crime to participate in or train a bear for a wrestling match. It carries a penalty of a fine of $500 and prison time of up to 6 months, and we're betting a strange...
To be fair, if you're trying to do something stupid like that, you need 6 months to sober up or fucking figure out what the hell is wrong with you that you wanted to fight a bear. I mean, granted, if they're talking about black bears, they're not as bad, but if they're trying to fight brown bears or grizzlies, you're a fucking idiot. This is for your safety, not the bears.
Look from the judge at sentencing. These are the oddest state laws, but the federal government gets in on the action too. Are you someone who likes to live on the edge? If you're planning on skydiving anytime soon, you should be able to do it legally. Just don't drink too much before you do it. Sure, it might be tempting to have a few and take the edge off those nerves, but it's considered a federal crime. Who knows why? After all, what's the worst that can happen when a drunk person falls from an extreme height and has to remember to pull a parachute in time? We just hate to think about why this law was passed. If you're a food lover, you might be surprised by just how involved the feds are in your dinner plate. You bite into an onion ring, and somehow this just doesn't taste right. Looking at it closely, it seems to be missing the ring part. The breaded circle is actually filled with diced onions. The restaurant didn't just commit a culinary faux pas. They might have committed a federal crime, violating a statute that regulates the content of onion rings and requires restaurants to disclose if they're using dried or diced onions.
There's a federal law on... That law is unconstitutional. Like, the only way that law is constitutional is if 2/3 of the... If there was a congression of states and 2/3 of Congress agreed on it, and something that stupid, I would have heard about it. I look into these federal bullshit stuff, funny stuff a lot, so... That means they just passed a bill with 51% of votes saying yes, and made that a federal law, which is, like I said, illegal. And I don't have time to get into how Congress and law and federal law versus state law works, so...
Don't know why the federal government got involved here, but maybe one congressman had some really bad onion rings. The government takes food seriously, including lunch meat. Have you ever eaten turkey ham? Wait, how can something be both a turkey and a ham? This popular cold cut is usually a formed cured loaf of dark meat turkey that looks a little like ham, and the government wants to make sure no one gets confused. That's why the...
This is a very different reason. And this is to protect people's religious rights, is one thing. Because if it looks like... if they get ham and then sell it as turkey to make more money or save costs, then someone, let's say Buddhist, is going to buy it thinking it's turkey. They eat ham and that's a... I don't know what they call it, but that's taboo in their religion. So you're ultimately are... overstepping someone else's rights. So, like I said, stuff like this would be constitutionally a legal law since it's affected by a constitutional amendment, or the Constitution itself. Actually, I don't think that they even need a vote to make this a law. I think this... I don't know. I'm not really sure how violation of the Constitution by private parties actually works. If it's a lawsuit or if they can actually get in trouble for it. All I know is that if the federal government or a state government violates the Constitution, yeah, it's bad.
Labeling of this lunch meat is strictly regulated. The words turkey and ham can't be in different orders or fonts so that no one will think they're actually advertising pork or regular turkey. That's a lot of restrictions for meat most commonly seen as the second in 4 of a turkey variety pack. But there's one condiment that the government takes even more seriously. Nothing can ruin a sandwich or a pile of fries more than opening a bottle of ketchup and it's runny. The government agrees, so they regulate how fast the ketchup will flow out of the bottle before it can be sold.
Okay, that's also stupid.
Named a Bostwick consistometer, regulators make sure that it can't travel more than 14 centimeters in 30 seconds. If it exceeds that, it gets labeled substandard. They also regulate the name of the condiment, and any form of ketchup, catsup, or ketchup are acceptable. Who calls ketchup ketchup? This next law might disappoint...
Way around that law? Don't call it ketchup, call it tomato paste. There.
Would-be supervillains everywhere. It's illegal to influence the weather, but it's also impossible to do that, right? Well, besides singing a song when it rains, the odds are no private citizen can. But during the Vietnam War, the government was studying how to create weather events over enemy lines to disrupt their troops. This was seen by the government as very dangerous, and they did not want the...
That is another thing, is there are laws on the books that are there to say what the federal government can't do. Like, my favorite one, America being money hungry, they will sell our assets everywhere. There's a law saying that we can't sell F-22 Raptor to other countries. We sell the F-35 all day. The Harriers, F-18s, F-16s, we'll sell all that. We are legally not allowed to sell the F-22 to another country. So yeah, laws aren't only for citizens, it's also for the government.
Information to come out. So they passed a law making it illegal to modify the weather without notifying the Secretary of Commerce, to the tune of a fine of $10,000. So now sci-fi weather machines are only the purview of the government.
Is it really just $10,000? This is why this is a stupid law. Because of what it is, and U.S. military annual budget 2023. Let's go with that. $857 billion. That's just an added cost for the service at that point.
Yay? You probably never thought about breaking this next law, we hope. If a horse passes you by on the street and splashes you with mud, you might get a little angry. You might even be tempted to make an angry gesture. But if you do it in the wrong place, that might be a federal crime. It's illegal to make an unreasonable gesture to a passing horse on federal land, which means you can flip that horse the bird all you want on the streets of New York. But what is an unreasonable gesture is up to interpretation, which is why the federal government eventually...
I think this goes into law lenity, where if it's a law is vague enough, like extremely vague, it needs to be put in the favor of the person who's being charged. It's in the favor of the citizens rather than in favor of the government.
Amended the law to make it not much less vague. Just don't do anything that isn't prudent when that horse passes. The federal government is very involved with animals, but maybe no more than this next case. Falcons. Why is the federal government so interested in falcons?
Yeah, I've never understood falcons.
Can be trained by talented falconers for hunting, and the government strictly regulates how many falcons a person can own and how they must be treated. But oddly, there's also a regulation on how falconry can be portrayed in the media. Trained birds of prey cannot appear in movies unless it concerns the hobby or relevant issues involving birds of prey, and the handlers cannot be paid for the bird's role in the film. This has led filmmakers who want to...
That's overstepping. That is severely overstepping. Because the handler is the one who's trained the bird, so they're not getting paid for their part of it. On another note, most states, as much as I don't agree with it, count animals as property. If your property is used in a film, you are paid for that. So why are falcon trainers not getting paid for their falcon's role? Also, why can't they have a movie with attack falcons? It's fictional.
To use falcons in their movies to go for a simpler solution: computer-generated birds. For more on weird laws.
And this is why AI will take over us all. Alright, well, thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't, subscribe to see more. I will probably be trying to find more videos about weird laws, because this was interesting. Peace.